guys, Tech Rally here, and welcome to the 14th lesson of Blockstack plus React. On the previous lesson, we worked on configuring our admin username post page and creating our post table component. In this lesson, we're going to be working on the view admin user post detail page and work on the navigation fix. Currently, when a user clicks post or my profile, it doesn't do anything because we haven't hooked up any functions to it. But essentially what we want to do is when a user clicks post, we want to navigate them to their admin/post page. And when the user clicks my profile, it directs them to the admin/username page. And this can all be accomplished using history.push. Lastly, the admin user post page will be defined in the route admin/username/post/post ID. In the admin username post page, we will show information about the user's post, and that includes the title, the ID, and the description. When the page loads, we're going to be making a request via get file to the post-postid.json. And keep in mind that when we are making this request, the underlying implementation is being done through a connection of a Gaia hub address and the path of the file, and in this case it's the post-postid.json. Let's look at the code and work on the navbar first, and then we'll move on to the admin user post page. So in the navbar component, we have three options: the post, the my profile, and the sign out. The sign out already has a function hooked up to it when you do an on click, and what we need to do is replicate this process but go to the appropriate routes. So the first one will be on click, and here we'll just say this.go to admin posts, and on the second one we'll say this.go to admin profile. Before we create these functions, since we have to know about who the current user is, we'll have to use the user session prop to get that data. So I'm going to create a empty user object initially, and in the component dim mount lifecycle, I'm going to destructure out the user session. And remember, the user session has a function to load the user data. So we're going to say if user session dot is user signed in, const user equals user session dot load user data, and then we'll set the state of that user to that information. Since we're going to be doing route navigation, we also need to import the with router HOC. And with this higher order component, we're going to make this class not default anymore, and then we'll wrap this here. So in the bottom, we'll do export default with router, and then pass that component in. And like I said before, the with router gives you access to the history prop. And up here, for the sake of consistency, I'm going to say prop types.object.is required. Cool. Now we can create those functions that we initially defined in the my profile and the post, and we'll start off with go to admin posts. And we'll put that right below the toggle navbar. And in here we could take out the history, and then we could also take out the user. So what we're going to be doing is just returning a history.push, and then we'll use the ES6 string interpolation here, admin/user.username/posts. Awesome. And the second function is the go to admin profile, and more or less it's a rinse and repeat. So const history equals this.props, and then const user equals this.state. And like before, we're going to say return history.push, but instead of to the admin/username/post, we'll just do admin/user.username. Awesome. I'm going to go to the terminal and run my application, and let's look at the browser and see if it works. In my terminal, I'm going to type npm run start, and I'll get back to you once the application is loaded. Currently, my application is loaded in the admin/comas.id/post, and when I click posts, it should just render the same page, and when I click my profile, it renders to my admin/username, and I click post again, and it renders back to the admin/username/post routes. Perfect, this is exactly what we wanted, and everything looks like it's working fine, which is great. For the next step, we want to have this button navigate to the admin/username/post/post ID route, and we're going to be working on the detail of that page. Let's go to the code and get that started. On our admin username post routes, we're going to import a new component for the admin view page. But for now, let's just erase this and say admin post view. We're also going to be passing in the match here to this component here. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we need to have access to the params of the post ID. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about why that is needed. But for now, we're going to say import admin posts view from pages admin/username/posts/posts ID. And I think I misspelled it, so I'm going to get this one, copy and paste here. I'm also going to be creating a new folder called posts ID. And in here is where I'm going to create the admin post view component. Awesome. So here we're going to do import React component from React. We're going to import prop types from prop types. And we're going to be importing my context from components, user provider. And this will be a pretty simple class-based component because I don't expect to do too much logic in this page. So first I'm going to write class admin post view extends component, and then I'll do the render function like normal, and we'll do a return. And here we're just going to say export default admin post view, and we're also going to be including the admin post view context type equal my context. So in our return, we're going to write div class name equals admin post view, and inside of the admin post view div, we're going to reference to a component that we haven't created yet called post detail view. The information we want to pass in through here is the match from this.props and also the user session from this.context.state.currentUser, and we just need to pass it through here. I will then include the static.prop types here, and match will be a object, and the user session will also be an object. Last but not least, we're going to be importing the post detail view component. So import post detail view from components/post/post detail view. Let's create that component inside of our submodule of post, and we'll say new file post detail view.jsx. And in this component, we're going to import React and component from React, import prop types from prop types, and import some BOMA components here, card and heading from React BOMA components. We're going to create our class-based component again and call it class post detail view extends component. We'll create a render function here. We'll return, and like before, we're going to call export default post detail view. I will then move on to including the prop types here. The user session will be an object that's required, as well as the match. Cool. Now that we've got the boilerplate cleaned up, we need to make a fetch request for the post-postid.json file, and we can use that in the component dim_mount lifecycle. And in here, we're going to make a asynchronous request. So let's just do that right now. And here we're going to destructure out the user session and also include the match. Cool. And we'll also create the options file, decrypt false. We'll make a asynchronous request here, so we need to do const result equals await user session get file, and we'll use the string interpolation here, post ID. So in this case, the post ID will be found in the match params. So we could do match.params.postid.json and pass in the options as well. If you need a refresher on why this works, let's go back to our routes here, and you'll notice the params are being taken from the route defined in the admin username post routes page. Let's go back to the post detail view and finish out this asynchronous request. If result exists, then we're going to return this.setState post to that result. Otherwise, just return null. Since we are setting the state of post in this component, we need an initial state as well. So above the static.prop types, I'm going to say state of the post is equal to an empty object. And I believe that this is somewhat set up to make the appropriate asynchronous requests and save the data to our post. So now let's work on the rendering. And in here, we can just reference to the card component defined in React Bulma components. And then we could do card.content here. Let's just scroll up. I realized I forgot to import a content component from React Bulma components. So I'm going to say content. And let's do content here. And in here is going to be where we have the bulk of our post detail view information. So first we're going to write heading. And inside of the heading will be the post.title. And we will render it as an H1. The second will be a heading, and we'll render as an H3. And that will be the post.id. And we could include some text in the front to give it some indicator that it's an ID. And last but not least, let's do the post.description. Post.description. I'm getting some linter errors here because it says post is not defined, and we could destructure that inside of the render function equals this.state. In terms of the post detail view, I think all the information is hooked up appropriately. Let's go back to the post table component and make sure that when the user clicks view, it navigates to the appropriate page. In the post tables component, if we scroll up, we see the admin options, and we have the option to view a post. And right now, all it's doing is console logging, clicking the view button. But instead of this console log, we want to call a new function, and we'll call it this.viewAdminPosts, and we'll pass in the post as an argument. And in viewAdminPosts, we'll take in a post as the argument here, and we will destructure out history equals this.props. And since we are using history, I'd like to add it as part of our prop types. Awesome. And we're going to say return history.push admin slash username slash posts slash post.id. Cool. And username is not defined because we haven't put it in our destructured props. So that should work. I believe everything is hooked up appropriately in terms of navigation and the post detail view component. Let's look at the browser and make sure nothing is broken. Keep in mind, I do have my local host already running, but if you need it to start it again, just run npm run start. In the browser, it looks like we're getting some compile errors, specifically to this component route here. And I think it's related to this underscore post ID, but let's go back and make sure something fishy isn't happening. The reason for this error is because I'm referencing to a folder structure called underscore post underscore ID, but when I created the post ID folder, I forgot to include the underscore. So I'm going to rename it here and add an underscore here. Let's look at the browser and see if it works. In the browser, I'm currently loaded in the admin/username/post routes. And when I click view, the content is not showing up. All right, let's figure out why. And I think it has to do with this admin/undefined. Debugging is part of a developer's life, so we'll figure this out together. Let's look at the code. So this is very interesting. We pass in the user session and the username to this post tables component, and where that occurs is in the post index here, where we clearly pass in the username and the user session. But we didn't bother to make sure that this username and user session was defined. Additionally, I obviously messed this up here. If we look at our user provider component, this.context.state is not being properly destructured. We have to include the current user here. So here we have to include current user. With that, the username and the user session is properly passed down. It looks like we only need to use the username here for the post table. So let's remove this and remove this as well. In our post table, we can now remove the static.prop types here. A couple of other fixes that we need to address is in the post ID/index page. And I realized that the user session is not being passed in via props, but context. And the most important one is in the post detail view page. And I always seem to make this mistake, and I apologize for it, is to JSON.parse the results here. With that, I believe the browser is now fully ready to go. Let's look at it and see if it renders properly. In the post page, when I click view, it now renders the post title, the ID, and the description. Going back to post here, maybe if I look at this one, now I can see exactly what I wanted. It gives the lorem ipsum post, which is the title, what gives the ID and the detail. This is a great stopping point, and I believe the next step will be working on the edit functionality. I hope this lesson was very insightful. I apologize for the couple of hiccups and bugs along the way, but in my opinion, this is a true, honest interpretation of what a developer has to go through when they're writing code and building applications, especially with Blockstack.js library being a relatively new library to most people. It is okay to struggle here and there and find the bugs and find the issues while writing code. We are definitely making progress, and I'm very happy with what our application is looking like so far, but I can't wait to work on the edit and the delete function with you guys. And yeah, let's meet in the next lesson. See you then.